Okay, so today is Tet Zayin Tevet. Today in Tanya we're going to be learning the difference between the Benoni and the Tzaddik. So we learned that the Benoni, he has full control over his external self. In other words, his garments, his thought, speech, and action. However, he is driven internally. He is driven to do averos. He has desires to do many averos. However, he is in full control over himself, and he will never do an avero. That is reference to a Benoni when he's not davening. When he's davening, so because of the davening and the closeness he has to Hashem and the contemplation of the greatness of Hashem that he has during davening, so the evil inside of him is completely submitted to the good. It's like it's not there. It's as if it's canceled out. He will not even be driven to do anything bad during davening. But right after he finishes davening, his animal soul will awaken again, and he will be driven to do all these bad things. But as a Benoni, he won't actually follow through with them and do them because he is in full control over his thought, speech, and action. I think this is a very important message for us. Many times we are inspired. We might have Chag, it could be Yom Tov, it could be a nice davening, it could be the rabbi give a nice Devar Torah, and we feel inspired, and we feel like we want to make a difference. Right after davening, we just walk out of the shul, and we're already feeling like we're going back to our old selves. So today we learn in Tanya that is completely normal. We shouldn't feel bad because we're being driven to do bad things. We need to recognize this is normal. And tomorrow we'll learn about how these inspirations, you can say, and the davening when your evil inside of you is completely subdued to the good, what imprint it leaves on you and carry with you throughout the day. It does have an effect on you, and it does help you. But also know that the fact that you feel that you want to do go back to all your old habits is completely normal. So let's not feel bad about those things. And even though we said that the Benoni doesn't do any of errors in thought, speech, and action, that is generally speaking. But there are exceptions to the rule. Like the Gemara says, it says that there's no Adam, there's no person. The Rebbe says that when it says Adam like that, just stam, regular, just speaking of an average person. So when the Gemara is speaking of an average person, the Gemara is referring to someone who's in the level of a Benoni. So the Benoni actually does three averas. One is thinking of thoughts of averas. Two is it's called Mayan Betfilah. The Rashbam explains that Mayan Betfilah literally means that he's Mayan, he's delving into the davening. That's literally translated. But the Rashbam, the Rashi's grandson, explains that he's thinking after he davens, even though he davened with kavana, he thinks to himself that Hashem didn't accept my davening. That thought is an avera for him. And the third one that the Benoni falls to is called avak lashon hara. It's gossip talking, speaking lashon hara, but not outright. It's saying something that could imply something bad about someone. So, for example, if I ask someone where I could find meat, I'm looking for meat, I want to know where can I find meat, and he tells me Reuven always has meat. So that can imply something negative about Reuven. He's always eating, he eats a lot, he's a person who doesn't have self-control. You could understand from that sentence something negative about Reuven. So we wouldn't outright say something bad about Reuven, but being that there's an implication of it that could be implicated from what Reuven said, from what he said about Reuven, so that's called avak lashon hara, and the Benoni also many times will speak avak lashon hara. So first thing I want to speak about a little more is about thinking about averas. So we said that the Benoni doesn't do any averas, not even in his thoughts. And over here it says that he does do an avera. We said it's an exception to the rule, but it also it's not just that. There's more to it than that. Because saying that he has no thoughts, saying that he has thoughts of averas, and saying that he has complete control of his thoughts is outright a contradiction. Like thoughts of averas is not being in control of your thoughts. So you can't say it's an exception to the rule. You can tell me he has control over his speech and action, but saying that his thoughts he has full control over, and then telling me, but the Benoni only has bad thoughts about averas. So what's he in control of exactly? He's not in control of anything. He's thinking about averas. So what does that mean? So that means that thoughts come to him because internally he's driven to do averas. So that brings thoughts to his mind, and he'll have thoughts about averas. However, because he's in control of his thoughts, when he recognizes a thought of an avera in his mind, right away he'll push the thought away. That's the control that he has in his thoughts, where he won't allow these thoughts to take control over him. These thoughts have no control over him whatsoever. He is in control of them. He says he sees them coming their way, and he rejects them. He pushes them away. He doesn't allow them to take a hold on him. The last thing I want to speak about, and I think a question that might come up to some people learning this Tanya. What's it? How is the Benoni doing an avera by doing things that are out of his control? He doesn't have control over these thoughts, for instance. These thoughts come to him. He's not perfect. He said a sentence that implicates lashon hara about something. He didn't even realize it. You're saying he was doing an avera? Like, he's trying his best. So we need to understand Hashem created us in a way that we were flawed and we do averas. And the fact that Hashem is punishing us, punishment is a cleansing process. We agreed to come down to this world as a Benoni, or even not as Benonim, as we generally are. And even though that means that we're going to sin and do all these things, go against the will of Hashem, and have to go through a cleansing process and go through a lot of severe punishments for our actions, for our averos, we are willing to take it all upon ourselves because we are doing the will of Hashem by creating a holy world in the lowest of worlds, in our world, in the physical, material world. We're in a world where it's mostly tameh, mostly evil things happen in this world, selfish, not associated with Hashem. And we agreed to come here for Hashem, and if that means that I'll have these thoughts, and that'll contaminate my soul, and I'll need to go through a cleansing process, then so be it. I agreed to that. So pretty much we're going through a cleansing process, and we need to be happy that we're going through this cleansing process. We're not here for ourselves, we're here for Hashem, and we chose to be here for Hashem because we are connected to Hashem. And we'll learn more about this later on. There's a whole parak, much later on, parak Mem, I think it's Mem, it teaches us comfort for the Benoni about it's not the Benoni's fault that he does what he does, or that he has to go through his hardships that he goes through, and the Tanya tells us comfort, how to make the Benoni feel good with all that. So we'll get into that when we reach parak Mem. Till then, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be zorchet to become Benonim. And even more than Benonim, we'll be zorchet to become Tzadikim, and Mashiach will come, Techef u'miyad ma.